My son refused to attend his own father's funeral. First, I thought it was anger. Then I thought it was grief. But when I saw the empty chair beside me at the funeral, I realized something was seriously wrong. My husband's coffin was only a few feet away. Family members were sitting quietly around me. Everyone was waiting for Michael to arrive. But he never did. I called him 3 times. No answer. Then, just before the service began, my phone finally rang. It was Michael. I answered immediately. "Where are you?" His voice was shaking. "Mom, I can't come." I looked toward the empty seat. "Michael, this is your father's funeral." "I know." "Then why aren't you here?" There was a long silence. Finally, he whispered, "Because Dad told me never to come back to that house." I froze. "What are you talking about?" "He made me promise." "Why would your father say that?" "I can't explain it over the phone." "Michael, your father is gone. Whatever happened between you two, you need to come home." He didn't answer. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Mom, if you knew what Dad did to me, you wouldn't want me there either." The call ended. I sat there completely stunned. My husband, Daniel, had never told me about any serious argument with Michael. As far as I knew, they had been close. Not perfect, but close. They had worked together. They had gone fishing together. They had even planned to renovate the old family house together. So why would Daniel tell our son never to come back? After the funeral, everyone went home. I stayed behind. I couldn't stop thinking about Michael. Then my daughter Sarah approached me. "Mom, you should go home. I need to know why Michael didn't come." Sarah looked away. "You really don't know?" "Know what?" She hesitated. "Nothing." I immediately knew she was hiding something. "Sarah." She looked at me. "Did something happen between your father and Michael?" She swallowed. "Yes." "What?" "I can't tell you." "Why?" "Because Dad made us promise." I stared at her. "Both of you?" She nodded. That was when I realized this wasn't a simple argument. My husband had taken something to his grave, and my children knew what it was. That evening, I returned home alone. Daniel's coat was still hanging beside the door. His reading glasses were still on the table. His coffee mug was still sitting beside his chair. Everything looked exactly as he had left it, except him. I sat in his study. I opened the desk drawer. Inside were old receipts, photographs, and several envelopes. One envelope caught my attention. It had Michael's name written on it. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. My husband's handwriting. "Michael, if you're reading this, then you already know why I asked you to stay away." I read the next line. Then I stopped, because the sentence underneath made absolutely no sense. "I didn't betray you. I was trying to protect your mother." I read it again. Protect me from what? I searched the rest of the desk. Nothing. Then I noticed the date on the envelope. It had been written 6 months before Daniel died. Whatever happened between my husband and my son had started long before his final days. And apparently, I was the person they were both trying to protect. The next morning, I called Michael again. This time he answered. "Mom, I found Dad's letter." Silence. "What letter?" "The one he wrote to you." Michael's voice changed. "You shouldn't have found that." "Why?" "Because Dad didn't want you to know." I felt my heart sink. "Know what?" Michael took a deep breath. Then he said, "Mom, Dad wasn't the person you thought he was." I gripped the phone. "What does that mean?" "It means there are things he did before you met him." "What things?" "I can't tell you." "You're my son." "I know." "Then tell me the truth." He was silent for several seconds. Then he whispered, "Go to the old storage room behind Dad's workshop." "Why?" "You'll find something there." "What?" Michael's voice became very quiet. Proof that Dad had another family. The call ended. I sat completely still. Another family? After 38 years of marriage, I thought I knew every chapter of Daniel's life. Now I was beginning to wonder how much of my husband's life had been a lie. I spent the entire morning thinking about Michael's words. Proof that Dad had another family. I didn't want to believe it. After 38 years of marriage, how could I suddenly question everything I knew about my husband? But there was only one way to find out. I drove to the old workshop behind our house. Daniel hadn't used it much during his final years. The door was stiff, and dust covered almost everything inside. I searched the shelves. Nothing. Then I noticed a small wooden cabinet in the corner. It was locked. I remember Daniel always keeping a spare key above the workshop door. I found it. Inside the cabinet were several old folders. One had Michael's name, another had Sarah's, and the third simply said, Eleanor, 1987. My hands began to tremble. 1987 was the year I met Daniel. I opened the folder. Inside was an old photograph. Daniel was standing beside a woman I had never seen before. Between them stood a little girl. On the back of the photograph was written, Before Eleanor. I sat down. I stared at the little girl's face. She looked about 6 years old. Then I found a birth certificate. The father's name was Daniel Carter. The mother's name was Rebecca Carter. I felt as though the room had suddenly become smaller. Daniel had apparently been married before me, and he had a daughter. I kept searching. There were letters, old photographs, bank statements. But then I found something that confused me. The documents showed that Daniel had continued sending money to Rebecca and the girl for years, even after he married me. Why had he never told me? Then I found a letter dated shortly after our wedding. It was from Rebecca. She had written, Daniel, you promised Eleanor would never know about us. I stopped reading. My hands were shaking. Daniel had deliberately hidden this from me. But why? Then I found another letter. This one was from Michael. It was dated only 2 months before Daniel died. Dad, I know what you did. That was all. I couldn't understand. What had Michael discovered? I kept searching through the folder until I found a handwritten note. Daniel's handwriting. Michael thinks I abandoned Rebecca. Then another sentence. He doesn't know the truth. I read the next line. I never left them by choice. My heart began pounding. There was clearly more to this story. I took the entire folder home. That evening, Sarah came over. The moment she saw the folder, her face changed. You found it. I looked at her. You knew. She nodded. How long? Since Dad told us. Then tell me everything. Sarah sat down. Dad had a daughter before you. I know. Her name was Lily. I looked at the photograph. Where is she now? Sarah hesitated. She died. My heart sank. When? 20 years ago. How? Sarah shook her head. I don't know everything. Then what does Michael know? Sarah looked at me. More than I do. I suddenly understood why Michael refused to attend the funeral. He wasn't simply angry with Daniel. He believed his father had abandoned a child. But that still didn't explain why Daniel had warned Michael to stay away. Then Sarah said, Mom, there is something you need to know. What? Michael didn't discover this after Dad died. He discovered it last year. I stared at her. Then why didn't he tell me? Because Dad made him promise. Promise what? Sarah looked down. Promise that he would never tell you until Dad was gone. I couldn't understand. Why would your father do that? Sarah whispered. Because he was afraid you would blame yourself. I felt tears forming. How could any of this be my fault? I don't know. Then my phone rang. Michael. I answered immediately. Michael, I found the folder. I knew you would. Who was Lily? Silence. Michael. She was my sister. My heart broke. You knew her? Yes. How? I met her when I was 17. I froze. You met her? Yes. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because Dad made me promise. Michael, I need the truth. He sighed. Mom, Lily didn't die because Dad abandoned her. Then what happened? I don't know the whole story. But Dad did. I gripped the phone. How do you know? Because I found his final letter. What letter? The one he wrote to Lily. I sat down. Where is it? Michael paused. Dad left it with me. Then bring it to me. I can't. Why? Because there's something inside that letter that Dad never wanted you to see. What? Michael's voice trembled. It explains why Dad really refused to attend Lily's funeral. I froze. Your father didn't attend her funeral? No. Why? Michael was silent. Then he whispered, because someone threatened him. The call ended. I looked at the old photograph again. Daniel, Rebecca, little Lily. For the first time, I realized something. Maybe my husband hadn't been hiding another family because he was ashamed of them. Maybe he had been hiding them because someone had forced him to. Michael's last words wouldn't leave my mind. Someone threatened Dad. I barely slept that night. The next morning, Michael finally came to the house. He looked exhausted. In his hands was a small envelope. Is that Dad's letter? I asked. He nodded. I should have given you this a long time ago. He placed it on the table. The envelope was old. On the front, Daniel had written, "For Lily." I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter. Daniel wrote about the years before he met me. He explained that Rebecca had been his first wife, and Lily was their daughter. But their marriage had ended after Daniel discovered that Rebecca was being pressured by someone connected to his business. Daniel tried to help them leave, but he was warned to stay away. The letter continued, I wanted to protect Lily, even if it meant she hated me. I looked at Michael. Who threatened him? We don't know. Then why did Dad stay silent for all those years? Michael looked down. Because every time he tried to tell the truth, something happened. What kind of things? Letters disappeared. Documents went missing. People changed their stories. I looked back at the letter. Then I reached the final page. Daniel had written, Lily, if you ever learn the truth, please know that I never abandoned you. I couldn't stop the tears. But then I noticed something strange. There was no signature. Instead, Daniel had written, Your brother Michael knows where the evidence is. I looked up. What evidence? Michael became silent. You said you didn't know everything. I didn't. Then what do you know? He took a deep breath. After Lily died, Dad gave me a box. My heart tightened. Another box? Yes. Where is it? I don't have it anymore. What do you mean? I gave it to someone. Who? Michael hesitated, then said, Rebecca. I stared at him. Your father's first wife? Yes. Is she still alive? Michael nodded. She lives a few hours away. Couldn't believe it. All these years Rebecca had been alive, and Daniel had never told me. I asked Michael for her address. He refused. Mom, you don't understand. Then explain it. Rebecca doesn't want anyone from our family contacting her. Why? Because she's afraid. Of who? Michael didn't answer. Then my daughter Sarah walked into the room. She had overheard us. Mom! What? There is something Dad never told either of us. She looked at Michael. He nodded. Sarah continued. Lily didn't die 20 years ago. I stared at her. What? She disappeared. I felt my heart stop. Michael immediately said, Sarah, we agreed not to talk about this. I can't keep lying to Mom. I turned toward Sarah. What do you mean Lily disappeared? Everyone believed she was dead. Everyone, except Dad, couldn't breathe. So Lily might still be alive? Sarah nodded. Dad spent years trying to find her. Did he? We don't know. Then Michael pulled out his phone. He showed me a photograph. It was a recent photograph. A woman standing outside a cafe. She looked older now, but there was no doubt. It was the little girl from the photograph. Lily. I stared at her face. Where did you get this? Dad received it 6 months before he died. From whom? Michael shook his head. We don't know. Then I noticed something written on the back. A name. Rebecca. And beneath it, she wants to meet Eleanor. I felt a chill. Why would she want to meet me? Michael looked at me. That's what Dad was afraid of. Why? Because he believed Rebecca knew who had threatened him. I looked at the photograph again. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice said, Eleanor. Yes. My name is Rebecca. I froze. She continued. I knew Daniel would eventually tell you. I couldn't speak. Then she said, There's something you need to know about your husband's death. My heart began pounding. What? Rebecca whispered. Daniel wasn't hiding Lily from you. He was hiding you from Lily. I felt a cold silence fill the room. Why? Rebecca took a breath. Because Lily believes your husband ruined her life. Then she said something even more shocking. And she has proof. I couldn't speak after Rebecca said those words. Lily believes your husband ruined her life. I looked at Michael and Sarah. Both of them were silent. Rebecca, I finally said, what proof does Lily have? I can't explain everything over the phone. Then tell me where to meet you. There was a pause. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock, the cafe near the old railway station. Will Lily be there? Rebecca didn't answer directly. She wants to meet you. The call ended. The next morning, Michael drove me to the cafe. Sarah came too. When we arrived, Rebecca was already sitting at a corner table. She was an older woman with a tired but composed expression. The moment she saw me, she stood. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Rebecca said quietly, You're Eleanor. Yes. She nodded. I've heard your name for almost 40 years. I sat down. I've heard yours too. Rebecca gave a faint, sad smile. Then I suppose it's time we stop hearing stories from other people. She placed a folder on the table. These belonged to Daniel. I opened it. Inside were letters, photographs, and old business documents. Then I saw something unexpected. A photograph of Daniel holding Lily as a little girl. On the back he had written, My reason for everything. I looked at Rebecca. He loved her. He did. Then why did she think he abandoned her? Rebecca looked down. Because someone made sure she believed that. Who? That is what Daniel spent years trying to discover. She opened another folder. Inside was a series of letters addressed to Lily, but none had been delivered. Daniel wrote these? Yes. Why didn't she receive them? Because someone intercepted them. I looked through the pages. Daniel repeatedly tried to explain that he had never chosen to leave Lily. Then Rebecca handed me a bank statement. This is the part Daniel couldn't explain. I studied it. Money had been transferred from Daniel's account to an unknown account for years. Who received it? We don't know. Then how does this prove anything? Rebecca pointed to a signature. I recognized it. It belonged to someone I knew. Someone who had been close to Daniel for decades. Jonathan. I stared at the signature. Jonathan. Rebecca nodded. Daniel believed Jonathan was taking money that was supposed to support Lily. But why? Because Jonathan had access to Daniel's business accounts. I felt sick. So Daniel thought Jonathan was behind it? Yes. Did he confront him? Many times. Rebecca opened another document. This is from the week Lily disappeared. It was a letter from Daniel to Jonathan. The message was short. Give me my daughter back. My hands went cold. What does that mean? Rebecca looked directly at me. Daniel believed Jonathan knew where Lily was. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then the cafe door opened. Everyone turned. A woman walked inside. She looked to be in her early 40s. She stopped when she saw me. Rebecca stood. Lily. My heart stopped. The woman looked at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she slowly walked toward our table. You're Eleanor? I nodded. Yes. She sat down. I've wanted to meet you for a long time. Why? She looked at the photograph of Daniel. Because my father talked about you constantly. I felt tears in my eyes. He did. Lily nodded. He told me you were the kindest person he'd ever met. I couldn't understand. But you believed he abandoned you. I did. Why? Because that's what I was told. By whom? Lily looked at Rebecca, then back at me. Jonathan. I froze. He told me Daniel chose you and your family over me. I looked at Rebecca. Then why did Daniel keep looking for you? Because he knew I had been lied to. Lily reached into her bag. She pulled out a small envelope. I found this after Dad died. I opened it. Inside was a photograph. Daniel stood outside a building. Beside him was Jonathan. And behind them was a teenage Lily. But there was something written on the back. The truth is in the house. I looked up. What house? Lily said. Your house. My heart began pounding. What do you mean? Dad told me that if anything happened to him, the evidence would be somewhere you would never think to look. Michael suddenly stood. Mom! What? He looked terrified. I know where he meant. Where? Michael stared at me. Dad's old bedroom. We returned home immediately. Daniel's bedroom hadn't been touched since his death. Michael searched the closet. Sarah checked the drawers. I stood beside the old bed. Then I noticed something. A loose floorboard. We lifted it. Underneath was a small metal box. Inside was a photograph, several documents, and one final letter. The letter was addressed to me. I opened it. Daniel had written, Eleanor, if you are reading this, then Lily has finally come home. My eyes filled with tears. Then I read the next line. Now you can learn why I kept her secret. I turned the page, and the final sentence made my heart stop. The person who separated us for all those years is someone you trusted too. I read Daniel's final sentence again. The person who separated us for all those years is someone you trusted too. I looked at Michael. Who? He shook his head. I don't know. Sarah stepped closer. Mom. Maybe Dad left another clue. We searched the metal box again. There was one photograph I hadn't noticed. It showed Daniel, Rebecca, Jonathan, and another woman. I recognized her immediately. My hands went cold. It was Laura, our longtime family friend. She had been beside me after Daniel's funeral. She had brought food to the house. She had told me how much Daniel loved me. And apparently, she had known the truth for decades. I called her. Laura, I need to see you. She arrived an hour later. The moment she saw the photograph, she knew. You found it. I stared at her. You knew. Laura sat down. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because Daniel asked me not to. Why? Because he believed you would be in danger if the truth came out too soon. Michael interrupted. What did you do? Laura looked at him. Nothing that your father didn't ask me to do. She explained that years earlier, Jonathan had been involved in a business dispute with Daniel. He discovered Daniel's secret family and used that information to manipulate him. But Laura had discovered something even worse. Jonathan had been intercepting Daniel's letters to Lily. He wanted Lily to believe her father had abandoned her. He also diverted money Daniel had been sending to support her. Daniel tried to expose him, but every time he got close, another piece of evidence disappeared. "So Dad created the box," I said. Laura nodded. He knew he might never get the chance to explain everything. I looked at Michael. "Then why did you refuse to attend his funeral?" Michael's eyes filled with tears. "Because Dad made me promise something." "What?" "He told me that if Jonathan ever discovered the evidence, I had to keep you away from him." "But you could have told me." "I was afraid." Sarah took my hand. "We all were. For years, I had thought my family was falling apart because of secrets. Now I understood. The secrets had been keeping pieces of us alive." Then Lily stepped forward. She had been quietly listening. "There's one thing nobody knows." We all looked at her. She took an old letter from her bag. "I received this 6 months ago." I opened it. It was from Jonathan. Only one sentence was written. "Your father chose Eleanor over you." Lily looked at me. I believed him for years. I reached for her hand. "You were never abandoned." She began to cry. Neither of us said anything for a moment. Then Michael hugged his sister. Sarah joined us. And for the first time, the 4 of us stood together without secrets between us. Later that evening, the police contacted us. The evidence Daniel had collected was enough to reopen the investigation into the financial fraud and the disappearance of his records. Jonathan eventually admitted that he had intercepted the letters. He had lied to Lily. He had manipulated Daniel. But he couldn't take away the years Daniel had spent trying to find his daughter. I returned home and sat in Daniel's study. His chair was still there. His photographs were still on the desk. I opened the final letter one last time. The last paragraph said, "Eleanor, I know you may hate me for keeping this from you, but I wanted you to know one thing. I never stopped loving Lily." I smiled through my tears. Then came his final words. "If my children are sitting beside you when you read this, then I succeeded." I looked toward the doorway. Michael, Sarah, and Lily were standing there. For the first time, Lily smiled. I folded Daniel's letter. The mystery that had begun with an empty chair at his funeral had finally ended. My son had refused to attend because he believed protecting me meant keeping me in the dark. My daughter had carried a secret because she was afraid of losing our family. And Lily had spent years believing a lie that wasn't hers to carry. Daniel had left us one final lesson. Sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. But once the truth is finally spoken, a broken family can begin becoming a family again.